The inside of the holding cell smelled faintly of ozone and disappointment. Nathan Callahan sat on a bench carved from some kind of transparent mineral that looked like it had grown there rather than been installed, legs swinging just short of the floor. His wrists were bound by a thin halo of light, not tight, just annoyingly warm, like someone had turned on the seat warmer in a car you didn't ask for. Right, he muttered to himself, peering up at the invisible ceiling. So first contact turns out to be me getting abducted, locked in a space glass box, and I haven't even had my coffee yet. Fantastic. The walls of the cell shimmered with subtle gradients of color, as though someone had decided emotions should be architectural. A soft hum pulsed through the floor, steady and slow, like a heartbeat if the heart belonged to a particularly lazy star. He was inside an alien palace. That much had become obvious about 2 hours after regaining consciousness. The architecture made no effort to hide its grandeur. Vaulted ceilings, crystalline columns, doorways that didn't open so much as sigh apart. Everything seemed to glow slightly, as if the palace was built from condensed moonlight and smugness. Nathan rubbed at his temples. His translator implant was still warming up, so all earlier conversations with his captors had sounded like underwater jazz. One of them, tall, draped in iridescent robes, ears like sculpted ivory daggers, had pointed at him and said something that made the others laugh. He suspected it was not a compliment. His only consolation had been the meals. The food looked like animated art, but tasted surprisingly like things he recognized. Well, except for the purple cube that had whispered compliments to him before dissolving. It was around what he assumed was mid-afternoon, by alien standards, when the door to his cell exhaled open. Nathan blinked as a figure stepped inside. Tall, graceful, cloaked in a sweeping gossamer fabric that shimmered like static caught in moonlight. She had the same elongated ears as the others, but hers were more delicate, adorned with thin bands of gold that trailed luminous threads behind her. Her eyes, slanted, luminous, impossibly deep, studied him with unsettling interest. "Human," she said, voice melodic with an edge of mischief. The translator finally kicked in, reshaping her syllables into something he could grasp. "You are not what I expected." Nathan raised a hand, still bound by light. "Neither are you. I was kinda hoping for something squishier, more tentacles, maybe a few eye stalks if I'm lucky." That made her smile. It was a slow, curious expression, like a cat discovering the concept of jazz. She stepped closer, inspecting him as though he were a riddle someone had only half solved. "I am Princess Vyra of Jurelia," she said, "daughter of Queen Sarilith, keeper of the Moonbind throne, whisperer to the Skyflame Codex." Nathan squinted. "That's a lot of titles. I'm Nathan. I once won a pie-eating contest at a county fair. Does that get me honorary nobility, or—" Vyra tilted her head, the gold threads in her hair catching the ambient light. "What is county fair?" "It's like a ritual gathering, with fried food and terrible music. Sometimes pigs race. We call it culture." She laughed, light, musical, but not unkind. "You are amusing. Mother said you might be. She thinks you're a curiosity. I wanted to see for myself." Nathan leaned back on his mineral bench. "So you're not here to probe me?" She blinked. "Probe? Never mind. Earth joke. Bad one. So what's the plan? Keep me here? Poke me with glowy sticks? Or am I going to be paraded through your courts like a pet with good hair?" Vera's gaze softened. "Number? Not unless you wish to be paraded." She stepped closer. "But I was curious. We know so little of your kind. You are emotionally loud." "I like that. I'm emotionally loud. I'll put that on a business card." She sat beside him, though still at a regal distance, and watched him with the intensity of someone trying to listen to music in a foreign key. "I don't understand. You're not afraid." Nathan shrugged. "Should I be? I mean, yeah, sure, I was abducted, imprisoned, and my breakfast plans were ruined. But your walls sparkle, your guards haven't tried to dissect me, and so far no one's melted my face. I'd give this a solid 7 out of 10 for hospitality." Vyra smiled again, this time slower. "You joke to lower the tension. Fascinating. I joke because I'm terrified and bad at expressing it, Nathan said. It's an Earth thing. Silence fell for a moment, gentle and oddly comfortable. Through the translucent wall behind Vira, Nathan could see the palace stretching into impossible geometry. Spires that bent like liquid, floating walkways suspended by pulsing energy, creatures flying on wings of crystal and light. He felt suddenly very small. Vera followed his gaze. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, he said softly. It's too much, in the best way. She looked at him then, not like a scientist observing a specimen, but like someone beginning to see a shape in a fog. My people don't form bonds outside the bloodlines, she said almost to herself. We are taught to marry duty, to love selectively. Our queen has ruled for 300 years. Her heart is colder than the void between stars. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a charmer. Vira chuckled. She will not like that I am here. You came anyway. I was bored and intrigued, and she paused, ears twitching slightly. You look so lost. I wanted to see if your laughter was real. Nathan met her gaze. I assure you it's all I've got. They sat in silence again, two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, sharing space and uncertain glances. Then softly, Vira reached out and touched the halo of light around his wrists. It flickered and vanished. Nathan stared at his now free hands. Neat trick. You're not gonna get in trouble for that, are you? She smiled. Almost certainly. Well, if I'm gonna cause an interstellar scandal, I'd at least like a proper meal first. Something that doesn't try to seduce me with compliments. Vera stood, her expression unreadable but amused. Come with me, Earthman. I know a place. The chefs there are sworn to only slightly insult their guests. Nathan stood, stretching stiff limbs, and grinned. Lead the way, Princess Longears. She did not take offense. In fact, she laughed. And that laugh echoed down the corridor long after they had vanished into the heart of the alien palace. The royal kitchens of Zerelia were unlike any culinary space Nathan had ever seen, and that included the time he drunkenly wandered into the back of a fusion sushi place that doubled as a nightclub. This was different. There were no stoves, no ovens, no pots or pans. The entire chamber pulsed with ambient energy fields. Ingredients floated in levitation shells, rotating gently like exhibits in a museum, while translucent drones flitted around, making adjustments with disturbingly precise gestures. The air smelled like warm spice, ozone, and a hint of citrus that tickled the nose but refused to commit to an actual fruit. Nathan ducked as a spherical object, glowing and growling faintly, buzzed over his head. Is that food or a security drone with snack-based side missions? Vira, walking confidently at his side, smirked. That is a Brennock seed, highly temperamental. It must be appeased before consumption. Appeased? It prefers compliments. Right, Nathan muttered, eyeing the Brennock suspiciously. Nice spherical symmetry you've got there. Very rotund, dignified. I'd totally eat you respectfully. The seed stopped growling. It glowed pink for a moment, then floated politely onto a shimmering plate. Vera clapped once, amused. You are gifted with diplomacy, Nathan sighed. Honestly, this isn't the weirdest dinner I've had. That honor still belongs to my Aunt Marlene's tofu turkey incident. They were led to a private alcove in the corner of the kitchen complex, walled in by a cascade of floating glass panels that refracted the ambient light into shifting murals. It was oddly intimate, like eating inside a kaleidoscope. The dishes came one by one, each more absurdly elegant than the last, a soup that changed flavor depending on your mood. Nathan claimed his shifted between mild existential dread and garlic. A protein spiral wrapped in thin strips of leaf that shimmered with bioluminescent veins, and something Vira called sky egg, which hatched into steaming noodles when touched with a fork. Nathan chewed thoughtfully. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I miss real bread. Crumbly, warm, borderline burnt toast. I'd trade 3 of these fancy mood soups for a grilled cheese and tomato soup combo. Vira tilted her head, interested. Grilled cheese? Sounds primitive, and yet comforting. Oh, absolutely. It's the culinary equivalent of a hug from someone who smells like laundry detergent and bad decisions. She laughed again. He was learning that laughter from her came more easily now, like some ancient door creaking open from disuse. Between courses they talked. She told him about the floating libraries of Uran, where books had no pages, only thoughts you inhaled. He described roadside diners with cracked vinyl seats and fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry wasps. When she asked him if Earth had royalty, he replied, "Sort of. But mostly we just put people on reality shows and call it leadership." Vera seemed both appalled and fascinated. Then as they sipped a final beverage, something effervescent that tingled in the bones, Nathan ventured, "So, I have to ask, what exactly is my status here? Like, am I a guest? A prisoner with benefits? A foreign exchange student from a planet you're mildly judging?" Vera's smile faded just slightly. "That's complicated." "Ah, classic answer, usually followed by something ominous. My mother sees you as a curiosity, a puzzle piece from a world she considers beneath notice. But she paused, swirling the drink. "I don't think of you as a puzzle. You are refreshing." Nathan leaned back, arms crossed. "Is that alien code for funny monkey with hair?" "No." She looked at him directly, her gaze serious for once. "It is code for someone I want to understand." A silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just full, like the moment right before a song drops into something unexpected. Then Nathan broke it, as he always did. "You know, I never thought being kidnapped by space elves would lead to fine dining and deep chats." Vira narrowed her eyes. "Space elves? You all have the ears, don't pretend you don't notice." She reached up instinctively, brushing the tip of one long ear. "Our ears are a mark of wisdom." "Sure, that's what I say about my bad haircut." The princess laughed so hard the drink nearly came out her nose. The look of pure horror on her face afterward had Nathan howling with laughter himself. They were still grinning when a new figure arrived at the edge of the alcove, tall, rigid, and glowing faintly blue around the eyes. One of the palace sentinels. The air cooled instantly. "Princess Vira," the sentinel intoned, its voice like smooth stone. "You are summoned by the queen." Vira's face hardened. "Now? She is aware of your extended visit. Her patience wears thin." Nathan leaned toward the sentinel. "Tell her I said hi. Maybe add that the soup was nice, or weird, or both." The sentinel ignored him entirely. Vira rose, composed but clearly tense. "I must go." Nathan stood too. "You want me to stay here or?" "Better if you remain, for now. My mother does not enjoy being challenged, especially not over dinner." He raised a brow. "Challenged over what, exactly?" Vira hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Let's just say she disapproves of my curiosity." And with that she turned, her long cape trailing behind her like liquid shadow, leaving Nathan alone with half-eaten plates, a humming Brennock seed, and 1,000 questions. He flopped back into his seat and sighed. "Well," he said to the seed, "at least you like me." It glowed pink again. Flirt. Nathan had just managed to convince the Brennock seed not to nest in his pocket. It had developed a clingy fondness for him after the third compliment. When a low chime sounded through the dining alcove, the floating glass panels shimmered, then peeled away like flower petals, revealing a woman who could have turned a black hole inside out with a glance. She didn't walk. She glided. And not in the relaxed way a person might on a hoverboard, but in the way a fully sentient glacier might drift with deeply judgmental purpose. Her robes trailed behind her in threads of royal obsidian, and her crown floated above her head, suspended by invisible force. Her ears were longer than Vira's, adorned with thin metallic strands that whispered to each other in a language only atoms could understand. Nathan stood up so fast he nearly knocked over a dish of sentient pudding, the woman's eyes fixed on him like they were attempting molecular disassembly. "You are the human," he cleared his throat. "Guilty, unless there's another one hiding behind the mood soup. I am Queen Saraleith of the High House of Jarelia, keeper of the crown spiral, mother of the Princess Vira." She paused. "Do you know why you're here?" "Honestly," Nathan said, straightening his shirt in the way one does when facing a monarch who could erase you with a frown. I was kind of hoping for a sightseeing tour, maybe a space souvenir, something embroidered. Saralith did not laugh. The very concept of laughter seemed allergic to her presence. You were found drifting in one of the outer sectors, near a rift we do not use, a rift we do not allow to remain open. Her tone was glacial. Your species has no sanctioned warp capability, and yet, you were here. Nathan swallowed. Okay, that sounds bad, but hear me out. I think there might have been a clerical error. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Your humor is consistent. Thank you. I try to keep the sarcasm calibrated. Keeps my blood pressure down. There was a flicker behind her, a blur of motion. And then a figure appeared. Vera, moving with quiet urgency, her robes flaring slightly with each step. She came to stand beside her mother, not defiant, but resolute. Mother, I asked to speak with him. I said you could observe the anomaly. The Queen's voice was steel-dipped in protocol. Not fraternize with it. I didn't fraternize, Vira said, just a touch too quickly. Nathan raised a hand. For the record, I don't even know what fraternizing means in your culture. But if it involves food and light insults, then yes, guilty as charged. Saralith's gaze snapped to him. You are not amusing. Yeah, I've heard that one before, usually from airport security. There was a silence that thickened the air. Somewhere behind the Queen, a line of palace guards stood immobile, their armor humming in a language of threats. Nathan could feel the pressure in the room shift, like gravity had opinions. Then Saralith spoke, measured and cold. You will undergo evaluation. If your presence here is deemed unthreatening, you will be returned. If not, we will determine what use you might serve. That's very vague, Nathan said, forcing a smile. Could we maybe workshop the phrasing on that last bit? Saralith turned without a word, and her retinue moved with her, like a wave of silver in silence. Vira lingered for a moment, her expression torn between frustration and guilt. Nathan leaned in slightly. So, is this the part where I start getting vaporized? Or just publicly disapproved of? I'm sorry, Vera said softly. She doesn't trust outsiders, and she certainly doesn't trust me. Well, that makes two of us, Nathan said. I don't trust her either, but I'm willing to give her points for dramatic timing. Vira looked at him like she wanted to say more, but protocol pulled at her like a leash. She gave a half nod and followed her mother, disappearing into the corridor's luminescent distance. Nathan sat down heavily, rubbing his temples. Okay, he muttered. So I've got one possibly affectionate alien seed, a maybe crush on a princess with diplomatic issues, and a queen who wants to repurpose me into a space paperweight. The Brennock seed pulsed sympathetically. Then, as if summoned by his existential despair, a voice echoed through the chamber. Male, mechanical, and annoyingly cheerful. Human designate Nathan Callahan. Please prepare for biotemporal evaluation. A panel slid open in the wall, revealing a smooth corridor lit by pulsing hexagonal tiles. A floating disc hovered expectantly at the entrance. Nathan sighed. Well, when in Rome, or in this case, when in aggressively geometric alien palaces, he stepped onto the disc, which immediately zipped forward with the unspoken confidence of a vehicle that didn't know the meaning of the word brake. The hallway curved and twisted in ways that made Euclidean geometry weep. He passed through walls that were sometimes water, sometimes data, and occasionally just pure light pretending to be something solid. At the end of the ride, the disc stopped inside a vast chamber that resembled a cathedral designed by a hive mind of lucid dreamers and theoretical physicists. Giant rings rotated above a platform, each inscribed with alien runes that blinked and shifted as he approached. A machine, half organic and half art installation, extended a tendril toward him. Please remain still, it said in the same peppy voice. Temporal alignment commencing. I feel like I should have signed a waiver first. You were deemed sufficiently reckless to forgo one. Nathan was about to respond when the world twisted. Not physically, but metaphysically, as though his memories were being plucked like strings and played out of tune. He saw flashes, Earth, stars, The wormhole that shouldn't have opened. A moment of silence. Then screaming. Then light. He gasped as reality snapped back. Scan complete, the voice said. Results. Anomalous quantum imprint. You are not entirely from the version of reality we expected. Nathan blinked. What the hell does that mean? It means, came a new voice, Vira stepping into the chamber, that you may not be just a visitor. You may be a variable, a divergence, something the Queen cannot categorize. He looked at her wide-eyed. And what do people like me get in your empire? Vera smiled faintly. Depends who finds you useful first. Nathan groaned. I hate being popular. The Brenox seed, tucked into his shirt pocket, purred in agreement. Nathan was starting to suspect the architecture of the Jarelian palace was designed by someone with a vendetta against straight lines and gravity. The hallways curved like serpents mid-waltz. Stairs floated when they felt like it. And at one point he walked through a door that turned him upside down and politely whispered, "Sorry about that," in flawless English. He now found himself in what he could only describe as a space aquarium filled with air instead of water, and ambition instead of fish. Huge glassy panels framed views of Jarelia's orbit, stars glittering like smug onlookers to his confusion. Bioluminescent flora sprouted from the ceiling, occasionally twitching when he looked at them, either curious or deeply judging, probably both. Following Vera's trail had led him here, or more accurately, a glowing map embedded in his palm had guilt-tripped him into not taking any detours. The map beeped whenever he stopped too long. He'd tried arguing with it once, and it projected a passive-aggressive haiku about punctuality. He muttered, I swear, even the tech here is sassy. At last, a door shimmered open before him, revealing a chamber far more grounded, by Jarelian standards anyway. The walls were embedded with softly glowing runes. In the ceiling was a swirling projection of galactic clouds in motion, like someone had painted space on silk and set it to music. In the center stood Vira, arms crossed, ears twitching in thought. She turned as he entered, her expression caught between relief and the kind of tension that comes from telling someone they might break the universe. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. Oh, I'm very obedient, Nathan replied. I follow instructions, maps, impossibly attractive alien women with questionable judgment, the whole package. She rolled her eyes but smiled. We don't have much time. My mother suspects I'm hiding something. She's not wrong, he said, then hesitated. You are hiding something, right? Please tell me this is more than a scenic detour into the glowing room of existential dread. Vera stepped closer and projected an image from her bracer. A glowing, pulsing representation of Nathan's body appeared. Only it wasn't just him. Threads of energy tangled around him like roots, and some of them stretched off the projection's edge, disappearing into blinking question marks. You're quantum unstable, she said. Rude. I mean that in a scientific sense, she added quickly. You resonate with multiple quantum frames, like echoes of yourself from nearby probabilities. This doesn't happen naturally. Nathan frowned. So you're saying I'm a glitch in the space matrix? Closer to a fracture, you don't belong entirely to this version of the universe. Something or someone ripped you through. She touched the projection, and a strand of energy pulsed. And your arrival here might not have been random. He blinked. Wait, might not? She hesitated. There are patterns. Your energy signature matches a series of anomalies that have been quietly appearing in our outer systems. Places we once sealed. Places connected to old wars and older technology. Nathan tried to wrap his head around that, but it was like stuffing cats into a backpack. No part of it was cooperative. Okay, so let's say I'm not just some cosmic accident. What now? Do I explode? Become the chosen one? Launch a band career in other dimensions? She looked troubled. You might be a key to something ancient. A gate, perhaps, or a weapon. Oh, cool, Nathan said, voice an octave too high. Love being compared to a weapon. That always ends well. Vera paced. My mother wants to lock you away, study you, maybe disassemble you. I'm definitely not a Lego set, he muttered. I believe there's another way. She looked up, hopeful and fierce. There's a place, beyond the core rings, called the Vault of Echoes. It's a remnant of the old empires. Forbidden, of course. But if you're linked to those rifts, we might find answers there. Nathan squinted at her. Wait. This sounds suspiciously like the beginning of a quest. She tilted her head. Would you rather wait in a containment cell while my mother debates the best way to extract your organs? He considered that. Point made. Adventure it is. Vira smiled, and for a second the tension lifted. Then her expression turned sly. Although we may need to blend in, I doubt the palace will just let us stroll out the front door. I assume you have disguises, he asked. Number we have something better. Which is how Nathan found himself 10 minutes later, stuffed inside what could only be described as a hover lizard suit. He blinked out from behind a visor that gave him predator vision and a mild headache, his body awkwardly compressed into the exosuit's alien proportions. Beside him, Vira wore a sleek battle-scale disguise that shimmered like oil in sunlight. This is ridiculous, he muttered, tail whapping a wall. I look like a mascot for a spacesuit. Good, Vira said, adjusting her helm. No one will suspect a royal princess is slumming it with a genetically unstable earthling dressed as an apex reptiloid. He glared at her, or tried to. The visor muffled even his expressions. A small hover cart arrived with a soft ping. It was shaped like a beetle and smelled faintly of cinnamon and hydraulics. They boarded, and it zipped down a hidden chute beneath the palace, spiraling downward through tunnels, lit only by the faint shimmer of fluorescent moss. You're really risking a lot for me, Nathan said after a moment. Vera didn't look at him, but her voice was calm. You're not just a man from another world. You're proof that our past is not as dead as my mother wants to believe. Still, he said softly, you barely know me. That made her smile again. In my culture, we don't always need time. We need resonance. Oh, that's very poetic. I'm going to steal that for a dating profile if I ever survive this. You won't need it, she said without thinking, and then caught herself. Nathan raised a brow, or at least tried to. Well, now I have to survive. I need to know what that meant. Vira chuckled, and the tension broke again, just enough. Ahead, the tunnel widened into a colossal underground hangar, filled with forgotten ships, half buried in stasis and dust. Some glowed with power, others pulsed faintly like sleeping titans. Nathan let out a low whistle. Now that's a getaway ride. Vira stepped forward, lifting her bracer to scan the nearest ship, a sleek black cruiser with wings folded like a waiting bird. Welcome to the vault, she said. If the Queen didn't already suspect we're traitors, she's about to. Nathan exhaled slowly. Okay, let's go figure out why the universe decided to drag me into this mess. But if anyone tries to dissect me, I'm charging double. Vera grinned, and the hangar lights flared to life as the cruiser stirred, hungry for motion. The cruiser tore through Jarelian airspace like a rumor no one wanted to believe. Nathan clung to the seat's edge, one eye on the shimmering veil of the atmosphere and the other on Vera, who piloted with the calm assurance of someone who had once crash-landed a training pod into a sacred orchard and still got a medal for grace under pressure. So, quick recap, Nathan said over the hum of quantum engines. We're headed to a forbidden vault that hasn't been opened in centuries, guarded by systems older than written language, possibly haunted by our own past. And we're doing this in stolen disguises and a ship that hasn't had its oil changed since the Galactic calendar switched formats. Vera didn't look away from the console. Correct, and I packed snacks. Well, now I feel safe. The Vault of Echoes wasn't marked on any map. It didn't have to be. It was one of those places whose silence was so absolute it created a sort of negative gravity. Systems steered around it instinctively. Records blurred, and no one asked questions unless they wanted to disappear like a plot hole under revision. When they descended, the atmosphere shifted, dense with memory. Pillars of cracked crystal towered around them, humming faintly in tones Nathan's bones could almost understand. Beneath their feet, ancient circuits glowed to life, recognizing something. Okay, Nathan said, stepping forward. So either the floor likes me or I'm about to become one with it. Vira scanned the central pedestal. These markings, they're from the pre-schism era. My people never decoded them. Let me guess, Nathan said. But I can. The pedestal flared to life the moment his hand brushed it. Lines of light spiderwebbed across the ground, threading through the floor like veins waking from hibernation. A sphere rose from the pedestal, black, smooth, humming with power and language unspoken. Vira stepped back. That's it! That's the Echo Core! The sphere floated toward Nathan, who, in a rare moment of self-preservation, did not try to poke it. Instead, it poked him. A flicker of light scanned his face, his chest, his very molecules. Then, like a whisper folding in on itself, it played a memory. Not his, but familiar. A field of stars, a rift opening, a ship like his own, but older, more primitive. A figure inside it, him, or some version of him. The rift closed. Another version opened. Again and again. Nathan stepped back, breath catching. I've been here. I've always been here. Vera looked at him. You're not just a traveler. You're part of the anchor that stabilizes these rifts. A living variable. The core sees you because you've crossed timelines over and over. Each time it tried to send you where you belong. But it never could, Nathan said quietly, because I never had one place. The sphere dimmed. Around them the chamber's hum softened into a lull, a sense of permission granted. Then maybe, Vira said gently, it's time to choose one. Nathan looked at her. You mean stay here, on Jarelia? With you and your occasionally terrifying mom and sentient plants that flirt with me? She'll come around, eventually, once she stops wanting to vaporize you. Great. I can add that to my dating resume. Mom considered assassination, but ultimately found him charming. They both laughed, tension peeling off like layers of an old identity. They left the vault with the core sealed safely behind them. Not taken, not exploited, just awakened. A warning system. A truth buried in memory. It would no longer remain forgotten, but neither would it be abused. The return to the palace wasn't subtle. Vera made sure of it. She landed the cruiser on the Queen's ceremonial balcony, usually reserved for high dignitaries or elaborate seasonal fruit displays, and marched Nathan straight to the throne chamber, where Saralith was already waiting, surrounded by a half-circle of advisors who looked like they'd spent the last few hours predicting planetary doom. You stole a royal ship, Saralith said without looking up. You accessed forbidden zones. You activated an ancient relic of interdimensional consequence, and you brought him back alive. Technically, I didn't steal the ship, Vera said. It responded to me. Consent was involved. Nathan coughed. Also, for the record, I didn't explode. Not even once. The Queen's eyes finally met his. They were still like the surface of a neutron star, but there was something new in them now. Curiosity, maybe. A shift in gravity. You are less of a liability than I believed, she said. More of an inconvenience with oddly persistent survival. Nathan grinned. High praise. I'll get that printed on a mug. A silence passed. Then Saralith rose. Very well. The core has awakened, and the old wounds may yet remain closed. You, human, have a choice. Leave now. Return to your world and forget this anomaly. Or stay and take your place among us, with all the risks that entails. Nathan turned to Vira. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The whole of her hope was in the way she stood, steady and open, ears tilted ever so slightly forward. He looked back to the Queen. If I stay, do I get a job title? She blinked. What? Like royal human of some importance, ambassador of interdimensional accidents, princess's emotional support mammal, something with a business card. Vira laughed, really laughed this time, and it echoed through the chamber like a spell breaking. Saralith ever so faintly smiled. We will find a role. Nathan nodded. Then I'm staying. And just like that, the rift didn't close, but it stopped calling, because for the first time in countless crossings, Nathan had chosen his coordinates not with panic, not by accident, but with purpose. In the days that followed, he found his place, sometimes awkwardly, usually with jokes, and occasionally with alien soup that glared back. He learned the language, the customs, how to avoid offending plants, and how to dodge ceremonial dances that involve small explosions. And Vira? She walked beside him not as a protector or rebel, but as someone who had finally found someone who made the palace feel less like a cage and more like a choice. As for Queen Sarilith, she never admitted fondness. But once Nathan caught her smiling at a diplomatic feast, when he successfully negotiated peace with a species that communicated entirely through sneezes. "You're improving," she said afterward. Nathan beamed. "Don't worry, I'll be annoying royalty in no time." The stars still shifted, the rifts still hummed, but the anomaly had chosen his side, and for once the universe didn't argue.